Hello guys, my name is Adam Shadow, and this machine behind me is the fourth and probably final version of the Ultimate Storage System. To be exact, it's the fourth video about it, since the in-between versions were far more numerous. As you can see, it is slightly smaller than the previous design, with only 5 items per half slice. That means 10 items per slice, because we did a lot of work on the creative multiplayer server to make a much better interface. If you remember the last one, it was very difficult to find which showcase block is related to which button. Here we have nicely showcase blocks with buttons alternating. I'm using note blocks and carpet mod to make them act like in 1.13 and later, of course. In the probably current design will use fence gates or something like that, or type doors, something similar that takes out most of the block. So, for those who don't know how this operates, this machine is a very simple super storage that is designed to be the best possible one for our needs on the Prototech server. These needs are not the same as you might have. We are doing a lot of assumptions, such as items being delivered filled boxes. Those boxes are almost full. There will be also pre-sorters like those in my past videos that will tell if a box is valid. Then this is the core part of the machine will find out if the box is of the desired item and store it into these droppers here. So let's go over that process first. Previously I was using these filters right here. Sadly these break in 1.16 or the snapshots or whatever pre-release or whatever is right now active. So we had to come up with better sorters. Thankfully a lot of the Prototech members helped me with this. This was probably the first one we got. This was a very old design and it's not even one-white tileable, because as you can see, if I put a piston here, power the redstone, both pistons get extended. This was something that kind of worked. This was the first working design. As you can see, it was quite large and this prevented us from fitting clocks and other machinery inside. And this was the design I came up with, which is basically a normal filter with a torch. Sadly, this has to have these lines offset. The previous designs didn't. You could have it like this and it would work. Nowadays it doesn't. Thankfully, these lines will send a signal every 8 game ticks, so a 4 game ticks offset is not a problem. So let me demonstrate. Here in this line we have droppers. In this boxes. In this one we have redstone. If I power this, the redstone will go over this hopper. Here we have a pretty much normal item filter setup with some end crystal to represent items that will never go into the storage. You obviously use named items for this. And here the boxes will go into the storage unit. So let's try it out. As you can see, we have a box and we have a piece of redstone. Let's try that out again. So, and this can run at 8 game ticks, since that's the limit of these hoppers. Of course, the pipes itself can be at 4 game ticks if you somehow manage to stop continuous item streams after each other of the same item. So, let's go a bit more into detail. So when we have these boxes here, and the items here. Here the items will just be transported by another line somewhere off, where they either will be recycled or destroyed. Here we have 7 droppers that are activated. Actually, 6 of them are activated, and the 7 of them store the items. They are activated by this clock here, or well, not exactly clock. It's a bit more like with my item fillers, like with the 4 times hopper speed item filler, where this will be actually a line that will get activated either like this every 6 game ticks or every 4 game ticks. Probably doesn't matter since it's already faster than the input, and it has to be at least faster. And now when this activates, these droppers will fire all of the items down here. Since they will get activated way more often than items come, we can be 100% sure all of these droppers are only filled with items when the one below is full. So this one will get filled first, then this one, and so on. This is very important because unlike when you remember from my older video, empty droppers don't cause almost any lag. They are insanely good and not causing lag. However, if you fill them, they will start causing a lot more lag. Therefore, keeping the amount of droppers that are filled as low as possible is very important in terms of lag. Don't worry, Extrata is not referring to what I'm speaking. He can't hear me, he's probably doing something different. Now, when we have the boxes down here, in all of these 5 slots, we can request them using the items I was talking about, the buttons I was talking about at the beginning. Here we need a little bit of a longer line using redstone to not power this rail, but in general it works very simple. The pulse goes from here to this setup of 2 observers. They will make sure that this dropper here sends the box into this long horizontal line, and that this horizontal line will get activated. Once this starts, for example right here, this will get this line of rails will be powered, then this, which will basically, if you remember my older video about instant rails, will result in the items getting funneled up to here, but also this dropper will get activated, which will get detected by the next slice, and again it will get repeated. So therefore this is horizontally perfectly extendable. We can do this for 20 items, but that would not be the optimal layout for the hallway. Of course, for the second part it works similarly, just the rails have to go up and over. Sadly, this line here cannot be extended by much. I think it could be like extended by 1 block at most, and that's about it. Maybe more, I'm not so sure. Well, probably only 1 block, which is sad because therefore we have to have for this part here and this part, which adds additional delay. Because for moving a few blocks upwards we need several observers, while moving horizontally many blocks we need like 1 or 2 at most. That's why you can see these delays here. They change. They should increase by at least 6 game ticks, but since this wire is very inefficient, this one only increases by 4 game ticks, because each of these bottom pieces takes 6 game ticks to transfer to detect that the previous one has been activated or itself has been activated, and transport into the next one, because simply there are just 3 observers. 1, 2, 3, and here again 1, 2, and 3 for the longest part. Sadly, I can't make this much better. And even then, it would be at most like 2k ticks of a difference, which is very little. Uh, Especially in terms of how fast your mind perceives it. As you can see, we are using here redstone to deliver the signal, also here at the bottom. This is actually very important. This makes sure that the delay is as low as possible. It obviously creates lag, but it only creates lag when a player pushes a button, so it's not attached to a clock, so it's not like a continuous uh, delay for the server in terms of milliseconds per tick to process. And at most, these observers can only activate every 4 game ticks, which is kind of low. Even for a full, I don't know how to even call it, diamond shape of redstone. You can write down these numbers if you are interested in them. This is probably quite the largest difference, since this one has to go completely up and over, while this one goes directly into this. A few things to mention with this interface. The reason why we are using this and not some chest holes or other shulker box showcase designs is very simple. The best chest holes I have found were without lateral movement. Lateral movement means something like when I stand here, that I don't just run through the hallway, but I have to run to the sides to get some items. Without that, about 10 double chests per slice, which means only 5 items per slice, which is quite terrible. Here, this is, and this one is something you might remember. These are shulker box display designs. The first ones I know of are from Raceworks and Archeon. These things, when you stand here in the center, you basically can access the box, take out items, or if you take them all out, the box gets replaced. This is quite fast, but it's kind of difficult to take out, for example, 20 boxes. It's also not very lag friendly, since we have about 1 hopper per item, which is a problem. If you compare that to this design, where we have just basically no hopper, actually. We only have a water stream will be down here for the items, and we have the highest density out of either chest holes or shulker box displays, because we use basically a single shulker box display, something like this. Let's put one more here. Something like this, and when I press the button, it gets replaced. Very, very simple. Very quick. I did a lot of calculations about what's the optimal density. Actually, the optimal density might be a bit more than this, but avoiding the lateral movement is really nice and user-friendly. Standing on these cobble walls is really cute, because when the box gets broken, I can demonstrate, you can actually pick it up. Sometimes. Not always, but it's way easier than with the previous design. Another few features about this, outside of just being future-proof, this machine is also incredibly well resistant to unloading. You can still break it by unloading, as all Minecraft machines, but this one is not as horrible as, for example, some binary designs, because the worst thing that can happen is these pistons will get set in the wrong position by default, which you can literally just run through it, look through each of these holes, and see if they are filled, if the machine is not running. Very, very simple fix. The second issue might be, of course, things getting permanently powered, but those will fix it themselves. The worst case in that time would be something like a few, probably even one box at most, being set into the wrong slice, which is survivable, in my opinion. It doesn't really take much time to uh, see that, oh, the machine gave me the wrong box, something went wrong. Because that's one of the biggest reasons why not to use binary, because binary systems use a lot of these setups with pistons with either blocks or observers in front of them, and when unloading that at a wrong moment, that's a horrifying situation, because you might simply just change one number to another number, and that's really really hard to notice and find out which exactly one has been damaged. You might even go for a long time without not noticing it, since you probably don't know all of the binary numbers, and if you just look at them, you can just tell, oh, this is the wrong one. These parts down here haven't changed from the last video. This, I don't remember the name of the guy who helped me with this. These are amazing design, since they are both future proof and they conserve a lot of quartz. Here, this was my design, inspired by this. Sadly, like I said, these uh, observers have to be in a bit of a different shape to not power this rail. Well, that's probably not a big deal. I'm using slabs here to indicate you can use slabs. This is basically the cheapest design, if you consider slabs being cheaper than full blocks, or cheapest layout of this exact design. Probably is the best way to tell it. Anyway, another important aspect is to, in this interface, to have showcase blocks on the side, because for example, if you want to show redstone, you could probably put it in the first one. It's not hard to find it. Like you can see there, which helps a lot. Of course, the ceiling ones are still there, but like I said, at least we have options now. This is one of the major challenges we are currently facing, and that is to find out where to place which items. We will definitely override it in such a way that we'll place the most important items for us, like redstone dust, uh, basically all of these components plus some solid blocks and stuff sometimes used for crafting, and these rails, for example, definitely slime blocks and things like that, like one type of either iron bars or glass panes, one type definitely the combo walls, stuff like that we'll put in the first set, since we will probably make it for 1000 different items. That means we'll have a 100 block long hallway for this, which means we can have quite a few slots filled in the nearest position. Therefore, you don't need to actually switch these uh, buttons at all. Since if you remember, uh, I think I mentioned in some older videos about the faction base. I was using for many years on a server a design of a faction base that had like, I think, 60 or 30 different items, which is almost nothing compared to this, and we perfectly worked with that, since a lot of the different items, if you look at them, are stuff like this. Yeah, many colored variations of the same stuff. And most of them you will never use. Like for example, why would I use poor stairs instead of, I don't know, cobblestone ones or wooden ones? And so most of them are just purely for decoration. Probably the last important thing I want to talk about right now is uh, whether or not you should make this. First of all, look at this. Do you understand every detail of this machine? If yes, and if you are on a technical server not running Spigot or any kind of crazy modification, go ahead, build it. I would be very happy. I would never accuse you of stealing it or anything. Just make sure you don't claim it as your own idea. That's the only thing I really want from you guys. Or maybe mentioning me is nice, but not the biggest deal. And if you don't, if you are more of a casual player, if you are playing on a maybe modified server or something like that, don't even attempt this. I made a wonderful little OP storage for you guys that you can build. It has two variations. One of them will probably use to pre-filter the super rare items for this storage, since this only is useful for items that we have a lot of, and we are pretty good at farming at Prototech, so we will probably have a lot of most of the items in the game. But for some super rare ones like uh, Ender Pearls, no, not Ender Pearls, Emerald ore. Sorry, it starts with E, and it's quite late for me when I'm recording this. You just use something like the OP storage that had the 1000 or so different item types with the slot reservation. So yeah, that's about it. That's most of the changes. If you are interested in anything of this or have any suggestions for me, please leave them down in the comments. Like and subscribe, since there will be new videos about this, not just for me but also from the other Prototech members. I'm also making a lot of other videos like Battlefield and many other games. Maybe it depends if I find the time, since nowadays I have exam time at university. So, bye.